I was 18 years old when I died. At least, that was what the doctors called it. My heart stopped for 43 seconds. By then, 43 seconds didn't sound like much. I had already spent 5 years watching my life disappear one piece at a time. First school, then dance, then my hair, then the little things nobody thinks about until they are gone, taking a shower alone, walking across a room without someone watching, sleeping through a night without a machine measuring something inside me. By the end, I had stopped asking the doctors when I would get better. I had started asking them how much longer. No one ever answered that question directly. My mother still pretended we had time. She kept lotion beside my hospital bed because my hands were always dry. Every morning she rubbed it into my fingers, carefully avoiding the IV tape, as if moisturized skin were evidence that life was still ordinary. My father still brought me books. I hadn't finished one in almost a year. The medication made the words slide around the page, but he kept bringing them anyway. Mysteries. Travel books. A ridiculous romance novel he bought by accident because he liked the cover. They had sold our house 2 years earlier. Then Dad's truck. Then Mom's jewelry, including the bracelet Grandma gave her when she graduated from high school. Dad worked nights at a warehouse after finishing his regular construction job. Mom slept in a vinyl chair beside my hospital bed so often that she developed a permanent ache in her neck. They never complained in front of me. That almost made it worse. I knew what they sounded like when they thought I was asleep. I knew the whispered arguments in hospital hallways. We can't keep doing this. She's our daughter. I know she's our daughter. Then what are you saying? I don't know what I'm saying. I knew the silence afterward too. That silence had become the soundtrack of our family. The last thing I remembered before everything went dark was my mother leaning over me. She looked 50. There were gray strands in her hair that hadn't been there 5 years. Earlier, her eyes were swollen. Her sweatshirt had a coffee stain near the collar. She was holding my hand. I wanted to tell her to stop. Not stop holding my hand. Stop trying to save me. You've done enough? Mom? Go home? Sleep in your own bed. Buy Dad another truck. Move somewhere with a garden. Have another baby, if you still can. Live. But I couldn't get enough air to speak. The monitor beside me began making one long sound. Mom stood so quickly her chair hit the wall. Then nurses filled the room. Someone pushed her away from me. The ceiling lights blurred. And that should have been the end. Instead, a voice said, "Would you like another chance?" I opened my eyes. There was no hospital, no oxygen mask, no nurses. Nurses. I was sitting on a wooden bench beside a street I hadn't seen in 10 years. Across from me stood a small grocery store with a faded green awning. Behind it was the old movie theater that had been demolished when I was 12. A city bus passed, not an electric one. The old kind, the kind I remembered from childhood. I lifted my hands, no cuarto bruises, no swollen joints. My fingers were thin but strong. I touched my face, smooth skin. No scars. I grabbed a strand of hair. Long, brown. Reala. My hair? A laugh escaped me. Then, another. They sounded strange because I couldn't remember the last time I had laughed without it hurting. Something cold rested against my palm. A pocket watch. It was silver, old-fashioned, and heavier than it looked. When I opened it, there were no numbers. No hour hand. No minute hand. Only a tiny golden sun slowly moving across a painted sky. The voice returned. You wanted a different life. I looked around. Who are you? No answer. What am I supposed to do? This is borrowed time. How much? When the sun reaches the horizon, you leave. Leave. Where? Silence. Then, you wanted to change the past. My stomach turned. I knew exactly which past. Before I could ask another question, I heard a child laughing. I looked across the street. 3 kids were chasing each other along the sidewalk. One was wearing a white summer dress that was already stained with grass. She had short brown hair, skinny knees, and a purple band-aid on her elbow. I forgot how to breathe. Her name was Lily Reed. She was 8 years old. She wanted to be a princess when she grew up. She hated peas. She loved strawberry ice cream. She believed cats understood English but were too arrogant to respond. And she was me. My younger self stopped running. She looked directly at me. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then she stepped off the curb. Lily, a woman ran from the grocery store and grabbed her by the shoulder. My mother, except not the mother I had left beside a hospital bed. This woman was 29. Her hair was long. Her back was straight. Her face was bright and annoyed and alive. Do you have any idea how many times I've told you not to cross without looking? I looked. You looked after you stepped into the street. That still counts. No, it absolutely does not. Mom pulled Lily closer and began wiping dirt from her dress. What happened to you? I sent you out in white. I fell.
Of course you did.
You said white looks pretty. I also said, stay out of the mud. You say too many things. Mom tried not to smile. She failed. Something inside my chest cracked open. That was my mother. Before hospital bills, before sleeping in plastic chairs, before she learned the names of medications no parent should ever have to learn, before I destroyed her life. Lily looked over Mom's shoulder. At me. I turned away. For 3 days, I avoided her. I walked through my old neighborhood like a tourist visiting the ruins of a civilization only I knew would disappear. I found our house. Blue siding, white trim, a crooked mailbox Dad kept promising to replace, my yellow bicycle beside the garage, Mom's flowers under the kitchen window. Everything still existed. The swing Dad had built in the backyard, the crack in the driveway where I used to draw chalk cities, the bedroom window where I had once taped glow-in-the-dark stars to the glass, because I misunderstood how glow-in-the-dark stars worked. I stood across the street for almost an hour. Then the garage door opened. Dad backed out in his old pickup. He looked young enough to be my brother. I ducked behind a tree. It was ridiculous. I had faced surgeries without crying. But seeing my father with dark hair frightened me. That night, I rented a small furnished apartment with money that seemed to replenish itself whenever I opened my wallet. The voice had promised me that money, health, a place to live, the highest treatment a borrowed life could offer. I hated how little any of it mattered. I bought groceries because I remembered what normal people did. Milk, bread, eggs, apples. I stood in the cereal aisle for 10 minutes because there were too many choices. For 5 years, my meals had been determined by doctors, nausea, medication schedules, and whatever my stomach could tolerate. Choice felt exhausting. I went home with 3 boxers of cereal and no dinner. On the 4th afternoon, Lily found me sitting beneath the big maple tree near the park. You're following me? I looked up. She had her hands on her hips. I'm not. Yes, you are. You came to me. That doesn't mean you're not following me. I almost smiled. 80-year-old me was exhausting. She climbed onto the bench. What's your name? I hadn't thought about that. Anna. She studied my face. You look like me. So I've been told. No. You really look like me. Primera. Shrugged. She leaned closer. Are you my secret sister? No. Cousin. No. Future daughter. I stared at her. She laughed. I'm kidding. Good. Good. My mom says I ask too many questions. She's right. Lily gasped. You know my mom? I saw her the other day. That doesn't mean you know her. You sound like her? No, I don't. She absolutely did. From that day on, she adopted me. That's the only way to describe it. Every morning, she appeared wherever I happened to be. sometimes with a popsicle, sometimes with a scraped knee, sometimes with a story that took 20 minutes and went nowhere. She showed me a creek where she and her friends caught tadpoles. She showed me a tree she believed was haunted. She introduced me to every neighborhood kid as Anna, my practically's sister. I had forgotten how loud I used to be. I had forgotten how as Ali I made friends. I had forgotten that before I became the sick girl, I had simply been Lily. One afternoon, she lay beside me in the grass and asked, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" I already grew up. That doesn't count. Why? Because you're only, 18. Only 18. I stared at the clouds. I don't know. I'm going to be a princess. That's not a job. It is if you marry a prince. Terrible career plan. Then I'll be a singer. You can't sing. She sat up. You haven't heard me. When? I realized my mistake. I didn't sing yesterday. I looked away. She narrowed her eyes. You're weird. So are you? She seemed satisfied with that. A few days later, she arrived carrying a notebook covered in glitter. Stickers? Friendship test. No. You don't even know the questions. I know enough. Favorite color? Green. She frowned. Mine is purple. I know. How? Lucky guess. Favorite food? Your mom's pot roast. Her mouth fell open. You have eaten my mom's pot roast? I had hundreds of times. Before hospitals, before mom learned to cook without salt, because one of my medications made my blood pressure unstable. No. Then how do you know? I can tell. That makes no sense. You'll discover adults mostly make things up confidently. She wrote something in her notebook. What did you write? Anna is suspicious. That evening, she brought me home. I almost refused. Then she grabbed my wrist and said, "My mom makes really good pot roast." That was enough to destroy 18 years of emotional resistance. The moment I stepped inside, I froze. The living room smelled like laundry detergent and garlic. Dad's work boots were beside the door. Lily's toys were everywhere. A family photo hung over the fireplace. Dad, Anne, Mong, Lily, me. Except I was standing beneath it, too. Older, looking at a photograph of myself. Anna. Lily tugged my sleeve. You okay? Yeah. The front door opened. Dad walked in carrying grocery bags. Young Dad, 31, thick, dark hair, no lines around his eyes, no exhaustion. He smiled when he saw Lily. There's my troublemaker. Then he saw me. His expression changed. Not fear. Not fear. Confusion. You must be Anna. I nodded. Lily talks about you like you're a celebrity. I do not. You told the cashier at Safeway, she asked. Mom came from the kitchen. For 1 second, she just stared at me. Then she laughed nervously. My God, you really do look like her. Lily beamed. I told you. Mom looked from Lily to me. Same eyes, same nose, same crooked left eyebrow. I could almost see a question forming. I looked away before she could ask it. Dinner hurt more than anything the doctors had ever done to me. Dad moved the serving bowl closer when he noticed I wasn't taking enough food. Mom asked whether I wanted more potatoes. Lily complained because Dad made her share the last dinner roll. Nothing important happened. That was what made it unbearable. This was the family I remembered. Nobody had failed me. Nobody had neglected me. Nobody had chosen money or work over me. Something terrible happened to us, and then they spent 5 years trying to drag me back from it. After dinner, Mom asked where I lived. Nearby. With your parents? No. Her smile faded slightly. You're 18, I know. Are they around? Not really. She didn't push, but before I left, Dad handed me a plastic container. Leftovers? I'm okay. That wasn't a question. I stared at him. He laughed. Lily gets the same stubborn face. I carried the container home, then sat on the floor and cried until morning. After that dinner, Mom started including me without asking. A text appeared the next Saturday. We're grilling at 6. Lily says you're coming. Apparently, I have no authority anymore. I stared at the message for 20 minutes. Then typed, okay. Primera deleted, italiano. Typed, thanks, Mrs. Reed. Deleted that too. Finally, I sent, I'll bring something. Her answer came immediately. Bring yourself. We own food. I laughed out loud. At the barbecue, Dad burned the first batch of burgers because he was arguing with a neighbor about baseball. Mom blamed the grill. Dad blamed the wind. Lily blamed male incompetence, a phrase she had apparently heard from Mom. I sat at their patio table and watched the three of them bicker. In my original life, I had remembered childhood as a perfect thing, destroyed in a single afternoon. But memory had polished it. My parents argued. Dad forgot things.
I was 18 years old when I died. At least, that was what the doctors called it. My heart stopped for 43 seconds. By then, 43 seconds didn't sound like much. I had already spent 5 years watching my life disappear one piece at a time. First school, then dance, then my hair. I attended Lily's parent-teacher conference because she had gotten a 58 on a math test and was convinced Mom and Dad would die of embarrassment. She begged me to go instead. You are not my parent. You're old. I'm 18. Exactly. Her teacher, Mrs. Callahan, looked at me, then at Lily, then back at me. Sister? Practically, Lily said. Mrs. Callahan raised an eyebrow. I understood immediately why 8-year-old me had been afraid of her. She slid the math test across the desk. 58. I stared at it. Lily stared at the floor. You skipped half the problems. I didn't know them. So you guessed the rest? Yes. Why didn't you ask for help? She shrugged. That shrug hit me harder than it should have. 5 years of illness had trained me to stop asking too. Not because no one would help. Because needing help had begun to feel like hurting people. I pushed the test back. Next time, ask, what if I still get a 58? Then you get a 58 after trying. She looked suspicious. You're not mad? No. Mom would give a speech. I can give one if you want. No. Then we're done. Mrs. Callahan smiled. On the walk home, Lily slipped her hand into mine. You'd be a good mom. I stopped walking. She kept going until our arms stretched between us. What? You don't yell much. That is an extremely low standard for motherhood. She shrugged. I still think so. I looked away before she could see my face. There had been a time when I imagined having children. Before 13. Before doctors told me certain treatments might make that impossible. Before survival itself became the only plan. That night I opened the pocket watch. The sun had moved another fraction toward the horizon. For the first time, I wanted it to slow down. Summer turned into fall. Lily's hair grew long enough for 2 uneven braids. I taught her how to make them. She complained that I pulled too hard. You're tender-headed. You're violent. Hold still. Mom. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. What? Anna is abusing me with hair. Mom looked at the braid, then at me. Honestly, that's better than I can do. Traitor, Lily said. Mom sat on the bed. Do mine next, I laughed. You're serious? Absolutely. So I braided my mother's hair. I remember doing the same thing from the other direction, being 6. Sitting behind her on the couch, trying to braid hair with hands too small to understand what they were doing. Mom had worn the crooked braid to the grocery store anyway. Now my fingers moved automatically. When I finished, she touched it. You've done this before. Lots of times. On your mom? The room changed. I nodded. What is she like? I looked at the mirror. At Rebecca's face reflected beside mine. She worries too much. Mom smiled. Sounds exhausting. She is. Does she know where you are? No. Would she be worried? Yes. Then call her. I can't. Mom looked at me. I expected another question. Instead, she reached over and squeezed my hand. Then when you can, tell her you're okay. I nearly told her right then. Instead, I said, I think she knows. At Halloween, Lily insisted I dress up. I refused until she appeared at my apartment holding two plastic crowns. You promised you'd help me be a princess. I never promised. You emotionally promised. It isn't a thing. It is now. So we went trick-or-treating as princesses. I wore jeans under the dress. Lily called that disrespectful. Dad followed us with a flashlight, even though every street was bright. Mom stayed home handing out candy. When we returned, Lily dumped her candy on the carpet and began sorting it by value. Chocolate bars, gummies, hard candy, things she planned to trade, things she planned to give Dad, because old people like boring candy. Dad was 31. I laughed until my stomach hurt. Then I stopped. For years, pain in my stomach had meant something. A complication, a medication reaction, a new test. Here it only meant I had laughed too hard. I went into the bathroom and cried silently. Not because I was sad, because I had forgotten pain could be harmless. Thanksgiving came. Then December. Snow arrived early that year. Dad built a lopsided snowman with Lily in the front yard. Mom made hot chocolate. I stood at the kitchen window watching them. Go out there, Mom said. I'm fine. You always say that. My heart stopped. She was opening marshmallows and didn't notice. Those exact words had followed me through 5 years of hospitals. I'm fine. You always say that. Mom turned. What? Nothing. You look like you saw a ghost. Maybe I did. She walked closer. Anna, are you sick? No. Are you sure? For once, the answer was true. I'm healthy. She studied me. Then why do you always look tired? Because my body had been restored. My mind hadn't. Because I still woke expecting pain. Because sometimes I reached for an oxygen tube that wasn't there. Because I avoided mirrors on bad days even though the scars were gone. Because health was not the same thing as being healed. I don't sleep well. Mom nodded slowly. Then she put the marshmallows down. You know you can talk to me. I almost laughed at the cruelty of the universe. I know. Do you? Yes. Okay, she didn't force me. That made it harder. On Christmas morning, there was a package under their tree with my name on it. Anna, not Lily. Anna. Inside were pajamas, fuzzy socks, a book, and a small silver picture frame. The photograph inside had been taken at Thanksgiving. Dad stood behind us. Mom was laughing. Lily had her arms around my waist, and I was smiling, really smiling. I stared at it too long. Mom noticed. If you hate the frame, I have the receipt. I don't hate it. The picture? No. Then what? I shook my head. Nothing. Lily leaned over. She's doing the weird quiet thing. I am not. You are. Dad handed me another present. This one's from me. Inside was a small toolbox. I looked at him. What am I supposed to do with this? Everyone needs tools. I live in an apartment. Things break in apartments. You could have bought me earrings. I don't know anything about earrings. That has never stopped men before. Mom laughed so hard she nearly spilled her coffee. I held the toolbox against my chest. In my original life, Dad's old toolbox had been one of the last things he sold. He had apologized to me afterward. As if I cared about tools. As if I hadn't heard him telling the buyer that his daughter needed another procedure. I excused myself and went outside. Dad found me on the porch. You okay? Yeah. He leaned against the railing. Rebecca thinks you're running from something. She thinks a lot. She usually does. We stood in silence. Then he said, You don't have to tell us what happened. I looked at him. But if somebody hurt you, you don't have to pretend they didn't. My throat closed. Why would you say that? Dad shrugged. I'm a dad. I'm not your daughter. He looked through the window at Lily. No, but somebody's supposed to look out for you. I turned away. He did to see me cry. Or maybe he did and gave me the dignity of pretending he hadn't. On New Year's Eve, Lily fell asleep on my shoulder before midnight. Mom carried her upstairs. When she came back down, she sat beside me. Fireworks began somewhere outside. Anna? Yeah? How old are you really? My entire body went cold. 18. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, Lily has a scar behind her right knee. I said nothing. She fell off her bike when she was 5. My throat tightened. She hates raisins. Silence. She cuts the crust of grilled cheese but eats crust on regular toast. I stood. I should go. Mom caught my wrist, not hard. Wait. I couldn't look at her. Her voice changed. Soft. Terrified. Lily? I closed my eyes. She let go of me. I heard her step backward. No. I finally turned. Mom's face had gone pale. That's impossible. I know. What is this? I don't know. Are you? She stopped. Then she looked at my face again. Really looked. Not at my features. At my eyes. What happened to you? That question broke me. Not who are you? Not how is this possible? What happened to you? I covered my mouth. Mom moved toward me. I stepped back. Her eyes filled. Then she asked a question I would remember for whatever remained of my life. Did I fail you as a mother in the future? I shook my head immediately. No. Then why do you look at me like that? I don't know. You look at this house like you're saying goodbye. I started crying. You didn't fail me. Did your father? No. Then what happened? I couldn't tell her. Not yet. So I gave her the only truth I could survive saying. You loved me. She waited. So much that it ruined you. Mom stared at me. That doesn't make any sense. It will. She started crying. I don't want it to. Neither did I. After that night, Mom stopped pretending she didn't know. She never called me Lily in front of the child. She never demanded an explanation. But sometimes, when 8-year-old Lily ran ahead of us, Mom reached for my hand. The first time she did it, I almost pulled away. Then I let her. That took longer. He knew something was wrong, but Mom kept my secret. I think she was waiting for me to decide what he deserved to know. That word bothered me. Deserved. My parents had spent 5 years giving me everything. What did they deserve from me? The truth? A warning? A chance to save themselves? One evening, Mom came to my apartment carrying groceries. You own nothing, she announced. I own things. You have mustard and 4 yogurts. I have cereal. 3 boxes of the same cereal. They were on sale. They were not. She began unloading bags. Chicken, rice, vegetables, fruit. Mom, the word escaped before I could stop it. Her hands froze. So did mine. For months I had called her Rebecca or Mrs. Reed or nothing at all. She slowly turned. I couldn't take it back. Her eyes filled instantly. I'm sorry. Don't. I didn't mean. Please don't apologize. She covered her mouth. I looked down. I haven't said that word in a long time. She slowly turned. I couldn't take it back. Her eyes filled instantly. I'm sorry. Don't. I didn't mean. Please don't apologize. She covered her mouth. I looked down. I haven't said that word in a long time. In your time? I nodded. Why? Because near the end, talking was hard. She sat down. I hated myself for telling her. But once the door opened, I couldn't close it. I was sick. How sick? Very. For how long? 5 years. Mom went completely still. When did it start? I stared at the grocery bag between us. 13. She calculated immediately. 5 years from now. What happened? I'm not ready. She nodded, then asked, Am I there? Yes. Your dad? Yes. Do we leave? No. Do we try? I finally looked at her. You give up everything. Her face tightened. For you? Yes. Then don't ever say you ruined us. You don't know what it cost. You're my daughter. That doesn't make the cost disappear. No. She reached across the table. But it means it was ours to choose. I started crying. Mom held my hand. For 5 years, I had watched my parents sacrifice everything and call myself a burden. For the first time, someone was telling me their sacrifice had belonged to them, not to me. The first time I saw Martin Vale again was in June. I was leaving the grocery store with Lily. A man stood beside a pickup across the parking lot, mid-40s, heavy shoulders, unshaven face, the same cloudy eyes. My body recognized him before my mind did. The grocery bag slipped from my hands. A jar shattered. Lily jumped. Anna? Martin looked at the sound, then at me. His eyes moved slowly over my body. The parking lot disappeared. I was 13 again. I could smell alcohol, feel carpet beneath my fingers, hear myself begging. Anna. Lily touched my arm. I grabbed her so hard she cried out. We're leaving. What about the groceries now? I pulled her toward the street. Martin called after us. Hey, you dropped something. I didn't turn around. At home, I locked every door, then checked them again. And again. And again, Lily sat on the couch. You're scaring me. I stopped. She looked 8. Because she was 8, she had no idea why I was shaking. I knelt in front of her. Listen to me, okay? If an adult ever makes you uncomfortable, you leave, okay? You don't worry about being rude, okay? You don't worry about hurting their feelings. Anna, you run, you scream, you call mom, you call dad. You call the police? You understand? Her eyes filled. Yes, I hugged her. I'm sorry. For what? Everything. Nothing. That night, I called mom. I need you to come over. She arrived in 9 minutes. Dad was with her. I hadn't asked for him. Maybe she knew I finally needed both. I told them about Martin. Not every detail. I couldn't. I gave them his name, his address. The year, the day. I told them he would come to the house when Lily was 13. Dad stood so abruptly his chair fell backward. Where does he live, Mark? Where? Dad, no. He looked at me. It was the first time I had called him that. His anger vanished. I continued. If you go after him now, you could go to jail. Then you won't be here when she needs you. Dad sat down. His hands were shaking. Mom's face had lost all color. Did he hurt you? I couldn't answer. She understood. She moved around the table. I backed away instinctively. She stopped. That hurt her. I saw it. But she didn't come closer. Can I hug you? Nobody had asked me that before. Not doctors, not relatives, not investigators. Everyone had touched me because something needed to be examined, moved, cleaned, documented, treated. I nodded. Mom wrapped her arms around me. I broke. Not quietly, not beautifully. I screamed into my mother's shoulder until my throat hurt. Dad sat on the floor beside us. At some point, his hand found mine. We stayed there for a long time. The next morning, Dad changed every lock in the house. Mom spoke to the school. They talked to neighbors. They installed cameras. They taught Lily rules that made no sense to her. No opening the door alone. No walking home without an adult. No keeping secrets with grown-ups. If anyone tells you, Mom will be angry if you tell her something. Tell Mom immediately. Lily complained, this is stupid. Mom looked at me, then back at her. Maybe, but you still have to do it. Martin hadn't committed the crime yet. That mattered. The police couldn't arrest someone because an 18-year-old stranger said he would become dangerous 5 years from now. But a detective took that seriously enough to document the concern. A neighbor mentioned Martin had frightened another child months earlier. Nothing criminal, nothing probable. But now people were watching. Martin moved away before the year ended. In my original life, no one had known what he was capable of until it was too late. This time, the future had changed. I expected relief. Instead, I became terrified because I finally understood something. If Lily survived, then I might never exist. Not this version of me. The girl who knew hospital ceilings better than bedroom ceilings. The girl who knew exactly how many hours her mother could stay awake before her hands started shaking. The girl who had watched her father cry in an empty hospital stairwell because he thought no one was there. If Lily lived another life, what happened to me? For days I stopped visiting. I stayed in my apartment. Watched the sun in the pocket watch move. I told myself disappearing was what I wanted. Then someone pounded on my door. Lily. Mom stood behind her. Lily marched inside. You're mad at me. No. You disappeared. I've been busy. You don't have a job. Mom tried not to smile. I glared at her. She lifted both hands. She said it. Lily crossed her arms. Did I do something? No. Then why don't you want me anymore? The question landed somewhere deep. I crouched. I do. Then prove it. How? Come to the beach Saturday. That's your proof? Yes. I looked at Mom. She shrugged. Apparently. So I went. The Oregon coast was cold even in summer. Lily ran toward the water wearing shorts and immediately screamed when the first wave hit her ankles. It's freezing. I told you. Why is the ocean broken? That's just Oregon. Dad carried a cooler. Mom carried towels. I carried nothing because they had apparently decided I was incapable of packing correctly. We spent the day collecting shells. Lily built a sandcastle and declared herself queen. Dad buried her legs in sand. Mom fell asleep under an umbrella. I watched them. Then I realized I wasn't thinking about the hospital. For 10 whole minutes, I hadn't thought about dying. That felt like stealing. Later, Dad and I walked along the shoreline. He kicked at the foam. Your mother told me. I stopped. How much? Enough. I'm sorry. For what? I don't know. Then stop apologizing. I almost laughed. He looked toward Lily. Was I there? Yes. Did I protect you? You couldn't. His jaw tightened. Did I stay? I looked at him. Every day. He nodded, then stared at the ocean. Okay. That's all? No. His voice broke. But it's all I can handle right now. I understood. On the drive home, Lily fell asleep with her head in my lap. Dad looked at us in the rearview mirror. Mom reached across the console and held his hand. For the first time, I wondered whether saving Lily might save them too. In my old future, Mom had been pregnant shortly after I got sick. I hadn't known until years later. The pregnancy ended early. For a long time, I thought it was because of me. Because there was no room for another child while I was dying. Because every dollar, every hour, every ounce of hope belonged to keeping me alive. One evening, I asked Mom, "Did you ever want another baby?" She looked surprised. Maybe. Maybe. We talked about it. What happened? Life. I looked down. She studied me. In your future? I nodded. Did I have one? No. Did I want one? Yes. She was quiet. Was that your fault? I couldn't answer. She understood. Lily. I looked up. I need you to hear me. She rarely used my real name. When she did, it felt like a hand reaching through time. Parents make choices. Adults make choices. You don't get to take responsibility for choices I made because I love you. But if I hadn't gotten sick, that isn't a choice you made. I opened the door. You were a child. I knew the rule. You were a child. Her voice sharpened. You do not get to put an adult man's crime on an 8-year-old, 13-year-old, or 18-year-old girl. Not even when all three are you. I stared at her. No doctor had ever said it that way. No counselor had ever made it sound so simple. I had spent years rearranging the tragedy until I was somehow standing at its center holding the blame. Mom reached across the table. What happened to you was something done to you. It was not something you did to us, I cried. She let me. By late summer, the sun in my watch was almost touching the horizon. I started doing things I had never gotten to do. I took Lily camping. She complained about bugs for 2 hours and then cried when it was time to leave. I taught her to float on her back in a lake. She panicked the first time and grabbed my neck so hard I nearly drowned with her. Dad laughed from shore until Mom told him to help. We went to a baseball game. I didn't care about baseball. Neither did Lily. We ate hot dogs and left in the 7th inning. I bought a disposable camera. I photographed everything. Mom asleep in a lawn chair. Dad holding a burnt pancake. Lily missing both front teeth. The crooked mailbox. The maple tree. My own face in the bathroom mirror. That last photograph took 3 attempts. For years, mirrors had shown me illness, a shaved head, scars, hollow cheeks. Now, they showed a healthy 18-year-old. But I had avoided documenting her because she felt temporary. Then I realized temporary things were exactly what photographs were for. I signed Lily and myself up for a beginner piano lesson. In my first life, the day I was supposed to begin piano lesson had become the last normal day of my childhood. This time, Lily sat at the keyboard and played every wrong note with absolute confidence. That sounds horrible, I told her. You sound horrible. I'm serious. So am I. The instructor laughed. I laughed too. Then she asked whether I wanted to try. My hands froze above the keys. For 5 years, I had imagined this. Not performing, not becoming good, just touching a piano without the rest of that day attached to it. I pressed middle C, one note, then another. Lily joined me. We made a terrible song together. Halfway through, I started crying. The instructor politely pretended not to notice. Lily did notice. Why are you crying? I like the song. It's bad. I know. That's weird. I know. She kept playing. So did I. A week later, Lily had to write an essay called My Future Self. She brought the paper to me. What should I write? Whatever you want. I don't know what I want. You're 8. So you're allowed not to know. She thought about that. Will I have long hair? Probably. Will I travel? If you want. Will I be pretty? You already are. She rolled her eyes. That's mom stuff. What does that mean? Things moms say. I looked down. She kept writing. Will I have a boyfriend? Hopefully not for a very long time. A husband? Maybe. A dog? Definitely. She smiled. Then she asked, Will I be happy? I couldn't answer. She looked up. Anna, I think you can be. That's not yes. No one gets a yes. She frowned. That's annoying. Welcome to life. Then she wrote something. What did you put? She covered the page. You can't see. Why? It's my future. Fair enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. I took the pocket watch outside and sat beneath the maple tree. The golden sun was so low, it almost touched the painted horizon. The voice had never returned. I spoke anyway. Was this the deal? Nothing. I changed her future and disappeared? Wind moved through the leaves. What happens to me? Silence. I laughed bitterly. Of course. Then another voice answered. You talk to Jewelry often? I nearly jumped. Dad stood behind me, holding 2 mugs. You scared me. Good. Means you're alive. He handed me cocoa. He sat beside me. What's the watch? I don't know. That's reassuring. It tells me how much time I have. Dad looked at it, then at me. How much? Not much. His face changed. Can we stop it? I don't think so. Break it? I thought about that. And I'm scared breaking it would make things worse. Dad nodded as if time-traveling pocket watches were a normal home maintenance problem. We could put it in the freezer. I laughed. What? Batteries hate cold. It doesn't have a battery. You don't know that. Dad, I'm brainstorming. I laughed harder, then cried. He put an arm around me. I'm not ready, I said. For what? To leave. I thought you wanted to. So did I. That was the strangest truth of all. I had entered the past with nothing left. I had been ready to trade my soul for one chance to erase the suffering. Now I wanted breakfast tomorrow. I wanted another argument with Lily. I wanted to see whether Dad ever fixed the mailbox properly. I wanted Mom to text me too many questions. I wanted to become 19. Wanting had returned. And wanting made death frightening again. Dad squeezed my shoulder. Maybe that's why you came. To be scared? To want something? I rested my head against him. He had always been better at simple answers. As the final weeks approached, Mom became restless. She cooked constantly. She took photographs. She invented reasons for all of us to be together. Movie night, taco night, a drive to see a waterfall, a picnic that lasted 11 minutes because it rained. She was trying to manufacture memories faster than time could take me. I recognized it because she had done the same thing in the hospital. One more Christmas, one more birthday, one more photograph. One more day. Finally, I told her, stop. We were standing in the kitchen. She was making a list. Stop what? Trying to fit 10 years into 2 weeks. Her pen stopped. I'm not. You are. She looked away. I just thought we could. Mom. Her face crumpled. I lost you once without knowing I was losing you. I went still. She continued. I don't want to do it again. I took the list from her. You didn't lose me. I'm going to. No? You set the watch. You don't know what happens. Neither do you. That's true. She wiped her eyes. So what am I supposed to do? Have dinner? What? Just dinner. No special food? No. No trip? No. No pictures? One picture. She laughed through her tears. Fine. That evening we ordered pizza. Dad complained that delivery fees were criminal. Lily stole mushrooms off my slice. Mom took exactly one photograph. Nobody said goodbye. It became one of my favorite nights. 2 days before the watch ran out, I visited the hospital where I had spent so much of my original life. Not the same building. The old wing still existed in this year. I walked through the lobby. The smell hit me first. Disinfectant, coffee, plastic. My body reacted instantly. My hands shook. My chest tightened. I nearly left. Then I saw a girl in a wheelchair, maybe 12. Her mother was adjusting a blanket over her legs. The girl looked annoyed. Not tragic, just annoyed. I'm not cold. You're always cold. I'm literally sweating. Humor me. The girl rolled her eyes. I smiled. For years, I had believed hospitals contained only endings. But people walked out of them too. People recovered. People visited. People worked there. People bought terrible coffee and argued about blankets. I sat in the lobby until my breathing slowed. Then I went home. The night before my final day, Lily knocked on my bedroom door. She climbed into bed without asking. You're leaving tomorrow. I didn't ask how she knew. Kids notice more than adults think. Yeah, Mom cried in the laundry room. She does that. Dad cried in the garage. He does that too. I didn't know dads cried. They do. She lay beside me. Are you going to die? I stared at the ceiling. I don't know. That means yes? No. It means I don't know. She was quiet. Are you scared? Yes. Good. I turned. Good? If you weren't scared, That would mean you didn't like us. I smiled. That's not how fear works. It is tonight. She reached under the blanket and handed me a folded sheet of paper. Her future self essay. You can read it now. I opened it. The handwriting was huge. When I grow up, I want to be happy and have a dog. I want to go places with my sister Anna. If Anna can't come, I will tell her about them. I want mom and dad to be old. I want to play piano, but only if it gets less boring. I want to be brave, but not all the time because Anna says you can ask for help. At the bottom, she had drawn 4 stick figures. Mom, Dad. The handwriting was huge. When I grow up, I want to be happy and have a dog. I want to go places with my sister Anna. If Anna can't come, I will tell her about them. I want mom and dad to be old. I want to play piano, but only if it gets less boring. I want to be brave, but not all the time because Anna says you can ask for help. At the bottom, she had drawn 4 stick figures. Mom, Dad. Lily, Anna. I pressed the paper against my chest. You spelled because wrong. She hit me with a pillow. I laughed. Then she started crying. I held her until she fell asleep. The final morning came quietly. Ma made pancakes. Lily, Anna. I pressed the paper against my chest. You spelled because wrong. She hit me with a pillow. I laughed. Then she started crying. I held her until she fell asleep. The final morning came quietly. Ma made pancakes. Dad burned bacon. Lily talked constantly, because talking was how she fought sadness. After breakfast, Dad asked me to help him outside. He was standing beside the crooked mailbox, the same mailbox he had promised to fix for years. He handed me a screwdriver. You know, he said, I kept thinking I recognized you. I froze. He continued working. Not your face. I swallowed. What then? The way you get quiet when you're upset? He smiled faintly. Lily does it too. She talks until something really matters. Then she says nothing. My eyes burn. Dad tightened a screw. I don't know what I'm supposed to believe. You don't have to believe anything. I think I do. He finally looked at me. Are you my daughter? I couldn't speak. He nodded once, then pulled me into his arms. I had imagined this moment thousands of times while sick. In every version, I was 13 again, or 14, or 15, crying into my father's shirt and asking him to make everything disappear. Instead, I was 18, healthy, standing in summer sunlight. Dad held me as if he could somehow hold both versions of his daughter at once. I'm sorry, he whispered. For what? I don't know. I started crying. That's the point, he pulled back. What? You didn't do anything wrong. Something happened. Yes. And I couldn't stop it. No. His face broke. I grabbed his hands. Dad, listen to me. He looked at me. You stayed. He closed his eyes. You stayed every time. He nodded. Then looked at the repaired mailbox. I finally fixed the damn thing. I laughed. Only took you 10 years early. He looked at me. What? Nothing. Before we left for the park, Mom stopped me in the hallway. She held a small box. I know you probably can't take things wherever you're going. That sentence sounds insane. My daughter came from the future. My standards for insanity have changed. She handed me the box. Inside was the silver picture frame from Christmas, the family photograph. I already have this. I know. Then why? Turn it over. On the back, she had written, for Lily, Anna, or whoever you become next. You were loved here. I couldn't speak. Mom touched my cheek. I don't know whether you remember us. I will. You don't know that. I will. She nodded. Then remember this part. What part? The good part. I closed my eyes. That was what illness had taken first. Not my future. My memory of the past. Pain had become so large that it cast a shadow backward. It made everything before it feel like a road leading inevitably toward disaster. But childhood had not been a warning. It had been a life. A good one. Mom kissed my forehead. Remember that too. The four of us walked to the maple tree near the park. The same place Lily and I had first really talked. The golden sun inside my watch touched the horizon. My fingers began to feel cold. Lily noticed first. Your hand looks weird. The edges of my fingers were becoming translucent. Mom inhaled sharply. Dad turned away for 1 second, just long enough to compose himself. Lily stared at me. You're leaving. It wasn't a question. I crouched in front of her. Yeah. For where? I don't know. When are you coming back? I smiled. I don't think I am. Her face crumpled. No. Lily, no. She wrapped both arms around my neck. You said you were practically my sister. I lied. She pulled away. I knew it. Despite everything, I laughed. She was crying now. Then what are you? I looked at Mom. Then Dad. They were both crying too. I turned back to her. I'm you. She stopped. What? Just a version of you. Her eyes widened. Your future me? Sort of. She stared at me for several seconds. Then, why are you so boring? Dad made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. I kissed Lily's forehead. Do me a favor. Just a version of you. Her eyes widened. Your future me? Sort of. She stared at me for several seconds. Then, why are you so boring? Dad made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. I kissed Lily's forehead. Do me a favor. What? Take piano lessons. Okay. Go to the ocean whenever you can. Okay. Don't wear uncomfortable shoes because they look good. That one's stupid. You understand? She nodded reluctantly. Ask for help when you need it. Okay. And if something scares you, tell Mom and Dad. I know. Even if you think it will make them sad. She frowned. Why? Because loving you is their job. Deciding what they can handle is theirs. Mom started crying harder. Lily nodded. And when Mom and Dad tell you they love you, believe them. Lily looked confused. I already do. I smiled. Good. My arms were beginning to disappear. Mom stepped toward me. Wait. I looked at her. She was shaking. Tell me what I need to do differently. Mom, please. You don't. That can't be true. It is. What kind of mother hears what you went through and does nothing differently? I thought about the woman beside my hospital bed. The woman who had begged doctors for another option. The woman who had sold everything she owned because maybe one more surgery would save me. Then I thought about young Mom standing in front of me now, still believing motherhood meant she could prevent every terrible thing if she just tried hard enough. I took her hand. You can't protect her from everything. She started crying harder. I hate that answer. I know. So what do I do? Teach her she can always come home. Mom pressed my hand against her cheek. And in your future, I swallowed. You never stop making home for me. Her face collapsed. I leaned forward. You were a good mom. Dad stepped closer. What about me? I smiled through tears. You were terrible at hospital coffee. He laughed. Anything else? You kept buying books I couldn't read. I thought you liked books. I did. Then I stand by that decision. You work too much. For you. I know. You should have told me to stop. He laughed. Anything else? You kept buying books I couldn't read. I thought you liked books. I did. Then I stand by that decision. You work too much. For you. I know. You should have told me to stop. I tried. You were bad at it. We both laughed. Then I whispered, You were a good dad. He covered his face. I had never seen him cry like that. Lily grabbed both of us. Mom wrapped her arms around the three of us. The last of the sunlight dropped behind the trees. The watch stopped. For one impossible second, I was surrounded by the people I had spent 5 years believing I had destroyed. Then everything became warm and quiet. I expected the hospital. I expected darkness. Instead, somewhere very far away, I heard a piano. Someone was playing badly. Missing notes. Starting again. Then a woman laughed. My laugh. Older, different, alive. The sound faded, and another life began. Lily Reed turned 13 without Martin Vale ever entering her home. Her 13th birthday was painfully ordinary. Mom made chocolate cake. Dad bought the wrong candles. Lily complained because one of her friends cancelled at the last minute. She wore jeans, no special dress, no ambulance came, no police officer sat across from her asking questions she couldn't understand. The next morning, she woke up late and complained about school. Nobody in the house knew they were living through a miracle. At 14, Lily quit piano. At 15, she started again. At 16, she got her driver's license and scratched Dad's car within 3 weeks. He told her he wasn't angry. He was lying. At 17, she fell in love for the first time. It lasted 4 months. She cried for 6 weeks. Mom brought ice cream. Dad threatened to have a conversation with the boy until both women told him to stay out of it. At 18, Lily graduated high school. Rebecca stood in the crowd and watched her daughter cross the stage. At 16, she got her driver's license and scratched Dad's car within 3 weeks. He told her he wasn't angry. He was lying. At 17, she fell in love for the first time. It lasted 4 months. She cried for 6 weeks. Mom brought ice cream. Dad threatened to have a conversation with the boy until both women told him to stay out of it. At 18, Lily graduated high school. Rebecca stood in the crowd and watched her daughter cross the stage. For 1 second, she remembered another 18-year-old girl. Long brown hair, tired eyes. A girl who had appeared from nowhere and looked at ordinary family dinners like they were heaven. After graduation, Rebecca went home and opened a box she kept at the back of her closet. Inside was a photograph. 4 people at Thanksgiving. Mark, Rebecca, 8-year-old Lily, and Anna. The picture should have been impossible. But there she was. Rebecca touched Anna's face. You made it, she whispered. Downstairs, Lily shouted. Mom, have you seen my charger? Rebecca laughed. Kitchen counter. No, it isn't. Look under your purse. Pause. Oh, Rebecca closed the box. Life continued. Lily went to college. Not far away. She came home too often during her first semester and not often enough during her second. She studied occupational therapy after volunteering at a rehabilitation center. She couldn't explain why the work felt familiar. She only knew she liked helping people recover things they thought they had lost. At 22, she took a road trip along the Pacific coast. At every beach, she took a photograph. At 24, she adopted a dog. At 26, she finally learned to make Mom's pot roast correctly. At 28, she got married beneath a maple tree. Dad cried before the ceremony even started. Mom pretended not to notice. There was an empty chair in the front row. No sign, no photograph. Just a small silver pocket watch placed on the seat. Lily had found it in her childhood bedroom when she was 19. It had no hands, no numbers, only a painted sun sitting permanently below the horizon. She didn't remember where it came from. But whenever she held it, she thought about the ocean and a girl named Anna. The memories were never clear. A braid, a piano, a white dress, someone laughing at her spelling, someone telling her she was allowed to ask for help. Sometimes Lily wondered whether Anna had been an imaginary friend. Mom never corrected her. Not until years later. Lily was 33 when Rebecca finally told her. They were sitting at the kitchen table. Dad was outside attempting to repair something that did not need repairing. Lily had brought her own daughter Grace over for the weekend. Grace was 8, loud, opinionated, currently wearing a princess dress over soccer shorts. Rebecca stared at her granddaughter for a long time. Then she said, "You used to have a friend named Anna." Lily looked up. "I remember. You do?" Bits. Rebecca disappeared upstairs. She returned carrying the box. She placed the Thanksgiving photograph on the table. Lily stared at it. Her face went pale. Bless her. Yes, who was she? Rebecca sat down. For more than 20 years, she had kept the promise she had never actually made. Now she told Lily everything. The strange girl, the similarities, New Year's Eve, the question. Did I fail you as a mother in the future, Martin? The warning. The watch. The final day beneath the maple tree. When Rebecca finished, Lily was crying. That's impossible. I know. Why didn't you tell me? Because she came back to give you a future. I didn't want you to spend that future being afraid of hers. Lily looked at the photograph. She was me. A version of you. What happened to her? Rebecca's voice broke. I don't know. Lily touched Anna's face. For years, she had carried a feeling she could never explain. Gratitude without a memory attached. Grief for someone she couldn't name. Now, the feeling had a face. Grace ran into the kitchen. Mom, Grandpa says I can use the drill. Both women stood. He absolutely did not, Rebecca said. From outside, Dad yelled, It's unplugged. That is not the point. Grace rolled her eyes. Lily laughed. And for 1 second, the sound made Rebecca 29 again. She saw two daughters occupying the same face. One who had suffered. One who had lived. Neither erased the other. That night, after Grace fell asleep, Lily sat alone beneath the maple tree. It was older now, weeder, a little damaged from storms. She opened the pocket watch. The sun remained below the horizon. Anna? Nothing answered. Lily smiled. I took piano lessons. Wind moved through the branches. I quit twice, like you probably knew I would. She laughed softly. I went to the ocean. Her eyes filled. I got older. The words broke her. I got so much older. She pressed the watch against her chest. I'm sorry you didn't. Then she remembered something. Not an image. A sentence. The future is yours. Maybe Anna had said it. Maybe Lily invented it. It didn't matter. She looked toward the house. Through the kitchen window, Mom was putting away dishes. Dad was checking the back door twice because age had made him more cautious. Grace was asleep upstairs in a princess dress she had refused to remove. Lily stood. For most of her life, she had thought miracles were dramatic things. A light in the sky. Voice from nowhere. Time folding in half. But perhaps the miracle had been much quieter. A 13th birthday. A scratch car. A breakup. A college degree. A bad piano recital. A wedding. A daughter. Grey hair appearing at her temples. Ordinary years arriving one after another. Anna had once believed the only way to end her pain was to erase the child who would eventually feel it. But the child had never been the problem. The future had never been punishment. And love had never been measured by whether Rebecca and Mark could protect their daughter from every terrible thing in the world. They couldn't. No parent can. What they could do was make sure she knew where to run. Make sure she knew she could speak. Make sure she knew that needing them was not the same thing as hurting them. Years earlier, Rebecca had asked, Did I fail you as a mother in the future? Anna had carried the answer across time. No, Mom, you didn't fail me. Something terrible happened to your daughter, and you loved her through every second that came after. You stayed when staying was expensive. You stayed when hope became painful. You stayed when I had already stopped believing I was worth saving. That was never failure. But this time, you get something different. This time, you don't have to prove how much you love me by watching me die. This time, Dad gets to keep his truck. This time, you get to grow old without memorizing hospital hallways. This time, the little girl gets to complain about homework and bad boyfriends and bills and traffic. She gets to make mistakes that have nothing to do with survival. She gets to become a woman who sometimes forgets to call home. She gets wrinkles. She gets gray hair. She gets ordinary problems. She gets tomorrow. This time, the little girl gets to complain about homework and bad boyfriends and bills and traffic. She gets to make mistakes that have nothing to do with survival. She gets to become a woman who sometimes forgets to call home. She gets wrinkles. She gets gray hair. She gets ordinary problems. She gets tomorrow. And maybe somewhere beyond the last movement of that impossible golden sun, an 18-year-old girl finally understands what she had been unable to understand while lying in a hospital bed. She had never been the burden. She had been their daughter, and she had always been loved. But this time, she gets to live.